Hello and welcome back to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel. My name is Clarissa and today I thought we would work on a palette cleanser project together. I've been making a lot of big projects lately. I just finished this vest last month. I'm working on my birthday sweater and I was working on my husband's sweater and I made it too short. So I made the sleeves too short, I made the body too short. This has to be ripped back and fixed. So in order to avoid doing that, let's work on a very palette cleanser project together, and I thought we could do a cowl. Now I know we've already done a cowl on this channel before, very recently, to practice the single crochet V-stitch, but this Flutterby scarf is inspired by a vintage pattern, the Ascot scarf or the Miss Marple scarf. We're again going to try and use one skein of yarn. Now I've already caked mine up. This is one skein of Swish DK weight yarn from We Crochet, specifically the color EDM, which is their Swish Pop series. And I'm going to be using a 5mm crochet hook. Yes, I just came out of the ballpark with that. It was just decided in the moment. So if you want to join me for some chaotic crafty makes, then let's go. Once again, the materials are 100 grams of DK weight yarn, a 5mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and of course a tape measure. The measurements for the Flutterby scarf are on the screen. We begin this tutorial by using single crochet thermal stitches. To begin, we're going to chain 2. And into that second chain from the hook, using the top loop of our chain only, we're going to be working a single crochet. So again, that is the second chain from the hook, top loop only. We're going to do a single crochet. Once we complete our single crochet, we're going to chain 2 and we're going to turn. Now we begin row 2. We begin row 2 by working a single crochet in that top loop of the second chain from the hook. And now we're going to do a thermal stitch. Now, if you need help learning the thermal stitch, I do have a tutorial, but the basics of the thermal stitch is that we're going to be using the back loop of the current row, and we're going to go into the corresponding loop that we left unworked in the row below. So, that would be, if we look at our work, the back loop of the current stitch, and then the remaining loop of the row below. So in this row, we've completed one single crochet and one thermal stitch. We're going to chain 2. And we're going to turn. This is row 3. Now row 3, we're going to start with a single crochet in the back loop of that chain 2. And then we're going to do 2 thermal stitches. So again, the thermal stitch, back loop of the current row, and then remaining loop in a corresponding stitch from the row below. So if we look at our work, this is the next stitch corresponding, and then the second thermal stitch will be worked here and here. So again, and here. Now we're going to chain 2 and we're going to turn. And we're going to begin row 4 by working a single crochet in the back loop of this second chain space. And then we're going to work 3 thermal stitches. So 1, 2, and the last one right here. It's tricky to catch, but here is single crochet, back loop only, remaining loop. We're going to keep repeating these same instructions of chain 2, single crochet in the back loop of that chain 2 space, thermal stitch in each thermal stitch, until we complete a total of 14 rows. I've just completed row 14. So now for row 15, we're just going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to complete a thermal stitch in each stitch for row 15. Okay, so we should have a total of 14 stitches at the end of row 15. Again, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and now we're going to begin row 16. We're going to work a thermal stitch in each stitch. And at the end of row 16, we should also have 14 thermal stitches. At the end of row 16, we are going to chain 2 and turn. Now we're ready to begin row 17. Now for row 17, again, we're going to pull that first chain 1 tight, and we're going to work into the back loop 1 single crochet. And now we're going to work our thermal stitch. Once we complete our thermal stitches, we should have a total of 15 stitches for row 17. So that was 1, 2, 3, and 14. So we have a total of 15 stitches. This one here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 thermal stitches. So we're going to end row 17 with a chain of 2, and we are again going to turn and repeat the same thing for row 18. So again, this is row 18. We start with a single crochet in the back loop only, and then we work our thermal stitches. At the end of row 18, we should have a total of 16 stitches. Once we complete our stitches, we are going to chain 2 and turn. Now we begin row 19. For row 19, we make our first single crochet in that second chain from the hook, and then we proceed to complete our thermal stitches. At the end of row 19, we should have a total of 17 stitches. Okay, so row 19, when we end up, we're just going to chain 1, and now we're going to turn. For rows 20 and 21, we're just going to work thermal stitches. And we should have the same number of stitches because we're not increasing or decreasing. We should have a total of 17 thermal stitches. And once again, these are single crochet thermal stitches. So right now we are working row 20 together. At the end of row 21, we chain 2 and turn. For row 22, we're going to work a single crochet in the back loop only of that chain, and then we're going to proceed to work thermal stitches until the end of the row. Remember to chain 2 at the end of row 22, and now for row 23 we work a single crochet in the back loop only of the chain, and then we proceed to work thermal stitches until we reach the end of the row. At the end of the row, we should have a total of 19 stitches, and that is counting the very first single crochet that we made. So it's that single crochet and then 18 thermal stitches following it. Then we will chain 1 and turn. At the end of row 23, we chain 1 and turn, and now we're going to work a thermal stitch in each stitch. So we should have a total of 19 thermal stitches right now. For row 24, we are simply going to work a single crochet in each thermal stitch. We're not increasing. And I will meet you back here for row 25. Row 25, we do the same. Chain 1, turn, and work 19, and work a thermal stitch in each stitch. Remember, at the end of row 25, we chain 2 and turn. Okay, now rows 26, 27, and 28 will be increase rows. Remember that the increase is worked by working that single crochet in the back loop only of the chain 1 space. The written instructions are also on the screen for your reference. Okay, so now row 29 and row 30, we are just going to work single crochet thermal stitches to the end of the row. Rows 30 and 31 are increase rows, so in the in the second chain from the hook, we work single crochet in the back loop only, and then we continue working our single crochet thermal stitches to the end of the row. At the end of row 31, we chain 2 and turn to begin row 32. We've just completed row 32. We should have a total of 24 thermal stitches. All right, so now rows 33, we are simply going to chain 1, turn, and work our way down again. So that would be 1 thermal stitch in each thermal stitch. And again, this is row 33. I will meet you back here for row 34 because row 34 is going to be a little bit different. Row 34 is what I call the close off row for the thermal stitch. And the only difference is that instead of just going through the back loop, we're actually going to be going under both loops of the single crochet, and then we're also going to be inserting our hook into the stair from the row below, and we're going to be yarning over, pulling through, and completing a single crochet. Again, close off row is inserting under both loops and then also inserting under the stair from the row below. One more time, under both loops, and then the stair from the row below. And this is row 34. Okay, you can see that by completing row 34, why I call it the close off row, because it evens out the front and the back of our thermal stitch triangle, I guess we can call it. Okay, and now we are going to be decreasing to ruffle our work. So the idea is to end up with something like this, okay? So we're going to be decreasing 3 single crochets together. So insert yarn over, pull up a loop, insert yarn over, pull up a loop, insert yarn over, pull up a loop. Then again. Okay, so now we should have 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And our work kind of curves like we wanted it to. So that was row 35. For row 1 of the keyhole, we're going to be using front loops only. So if we look at the top of our work, we are going to be working front loops only. Those are the loops that are closest to us. Okay, I'm losing the light again today, so let's finish this row and call it a night. So this is the first. We're going to do a single crochet. And in the next stitch, front loop only, another single crochet. Front loop only, another single crochet. Front loop only, another single crochet. Okay, and we've completed our 8 single crochets in the front loop only. So now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. So now we are actually going to do an increase in the first stitch. So that is a single crochet increase, and we're just going to complete it by working 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And then I'm going to work a single crochet in each stitch until I reach the last stitch of the row, in which I will do another increase. So this is the last stitch of the row. I'm going to do an increase here. All right, and now we have a total of 10 stitches in this row. For row 3, we are simply going to place a single crochet in each stitch. So we've completed row 3 with no increases. Now we're going to do row 4. Row 4 is going to be an increase in the first single crochet. So right here, we're going to do an increase. And then we are going to single crochet in each stitch until 1 stitch remains. In that last stitch, we are also going to be doing an increase. This is our last stitch, so we're going to be placing a single crochet increase right here. Chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to continue working our single crochets until we reach a total of 12 rows or 2.5 inches. And I will meet you back here when I've completed those inches. This is 12 rows of single crochet, counting from the very first row where we did front loop only. So measuring from this front loop only row, we have 2.5 inches, which was what we wanted. Okay, so now we are actually going to cut our yarn. I never know how much to cut, okay? Sometimes I think I do too much, like now that's too much, okay. And now we need to do a keyhole, right? So we have the front. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to that row where we only worked in the front loops, and since we're facing the back of the work, we now have these loops to work into. So again, we're gonna insert our hook into the remaining loops of row 1. We're gonna crochet into these loops. So we're gonna grab our yarn, and I'm going to insert, chain 1 to secure, and I'm going to work my 8 single crochets. So now we're just going to be repeating the instructions for the previous single crochet panel. Okay, so we work 8 single crochets, and now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn, and we are going to repeat our row 2. So row 2 for the keyhole was to do an increase in the first stitch, and then work single crochet stitches until we reach the last stitch where we're going to do another increase. And now we should have 10 stitches when we complete this row. So we're going to count it just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Perfect. And now we're going to chain 1 and turn. And for row 3, we are simply going to work a single crochet in each stitch. chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to keep repeating rows 4 to 12 of the keyhole, so timestamp for that is on the screen. So we now have 2 flaps that we are going to join to form our keyhole. I've already chained 1 and turned. Now what we're going to do is insert our hook through the front flap, the first single crochet stitch of the front flap, and then we're going to insert our hook to the, sorry, I keep breaking my yarn. So we're going to insert our hook into the first single crochet from the front flap and into this first single crochet from the back flap. Okay, and we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, complete our single crochet. And then again into the second single crochet and into the second single crochet. And we're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, complete a single crochet. Once we've completed these 2 single crochets, joins, we're going to insert our hook into the front, insert our hook into the back stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, work a single crochet, but then we're going to go back into these same stitches that we've joined and we're going to do another single crochet. So we're doing an increase here, and we're going to repeat that join with an increase until we are 2 stitches away from the end of the row. So again, we are inserting through the front, inserting through the back, yarning over, doing a single crochet, and then going back into those same stitches that we joined and doing another single crochet, which does an increase. And we're going to repeat that until we are 2 stitches away from the end of the row. After we've completed our increases, we are left with 2 stitches, and we're going to do a single crochet in each of these 2 stitches that are left. Remember, we are going through the front and through the back flap and doing a single crochet to join. We should have a total of 20 stitches. So we have joined and we have 20 stitches. Now we are going to chain 1 and turn. Okay, and we are actually going to be starting our thermal stitches again. So we're just going to work in the back loop only. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to skip our first stitch because we want to go from the 20 stitches that we have seamed to 18. And that might seem a little silly. You might be saying, well, why didn't you just pick up 18 stitches to begin with? And that's because I wanted this ripple effect that I got from picking up a lot of stitches. Okay. So we're going to be skipping that first stitch and we're going to be working a single crochet back loop only in the next stitch. Again, we're just going to pick up the back loop only and single crochet until we are 2 stitches away from the end of the row. When we are 2 stitches from the end of the row, we can either skip the next stitch and work into the last loop, or we could do a single crochet decrease. The point is to get those 18 stitches. This next row, we're going to be switching from single crochet thermal stitch to double crochet thermal stitch, and we're also going to be decreasing 2 more stitches. So for the double crochet, we yarn over, we insert our hook into the back loop only of the current row and into the remaining loop from the row below. Okay, and we're going to do a yarn over and we're going to pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And again, then we have a double crochet thermal stitch. So yarn over, insert our hook into the current row, and then insert the hook into the remaining loop of the row below. We only go through the first 2 loops of the double crochet and then we yarn over again. We go into our next 2 loops and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over and complete our double crochet decrease. So that is the first decrease done. Now we're going to continue along the row by working into the current back loop and then the remaining loop of the row below until we have 2 stitches left, and then there we're going to do another decrease to take our stitch count from 18 to 16. And now we should have a total of 16 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then when we decrease, we're going to have 14. Wait, did I say 13? Okay, I lost count, but we should have a total of 16 double crochets. Also try going for an invisible decrease here, an invisible thermal decrease, but I think it leaves a little gap, so I just would recommend the normal double crochet decrease. But either way, we should now be at our 16 stitch count. Of course, these are 16 stitches in what are now the back loops of the work, so we have to chain 1 and turn, and this time to do decreases, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be skipping loops at the bottom. So remember, bottom loops, we have 18 bottom loops. Let's confirm that right now. So if we count, this is our last stitch right here. So 1, 2, Yep, 18. So we're going to be skipping a total of 2 loops from the bottom remaining loops. So we insert our hook and we skip 1 loop at the bottom and we work our double crochet thermal stitch. So we've decreased 1 stitch from the bottom loops. And now in the next one, we're going to insert our hook into the next back loop of the current row and into a bottom loop from the row below. And we're going to continue working double crochet thermal stitch, remembering to skip 1 more loop. It can be at the end or at the middle, wherever you want to skip that loop, so that we ensure that we have a total of 16 stitches for this row as well. This should be our last decrease row. Now we're going to keep going along our rows in double crochet thermal stitch until we've completed a total of 18.5 inches, or as close to 18.5 inches as we can get. And we're going to measure that from the tip of our arrow. The tip of our arrow to wherever we need to go. So right now, if I place this at the very tip, 0, and we have 9.25 inches. So I'm going to keep crocheting until I get to those 18.5 inches, or as close to 18.5 as we can get, and I will meet you back here for the next step. Okay, so I've completed my 18.5 inches, or as close to 18.5 as I got it, considering of course that we are going to give this a gentle soak and gentle block. So right now I have right 18.25 inches. So this last round that I'm gonna do will take me to 18.5. Now, after completing our last row, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to close off the row, okay? Meaning that now we are going to go through under both loops of the double crochet stitch. So we're going to go under both loops of the double crochet stitch, and then we're going to go into that unworked stitch from the row below. And we're going to do a single crochet. So we're closing it off just like when we closed off the arrow part, okay? So again, going under both loops of the double crochet and then going under the remaining loop from the row below. Both loops of the double crochet and the remaining loop. This closes off our first half of this keyhole scarf. Once we've bound off the row, it is time to cut our yarn because we've completed the first half of this scarf. Now, to work the second half of this scarf, we are actually going to repeat this all over again. We're going to repeat the same instructions all over again. So we're going to start from the tip, start increasing in our single crochet thermal stitch, then work our single crochet, and then work our thermal stitch. Okay. The only difference is that now we are not going to be working a keyhole in this area, okay? I'm going to put the timestamp in the video in the description box below and on the screen so that I can meet you back here when we've completed our arrow so that we can work this portion of the scarf together. We've closed off our thermal stitch rows, so now it is time to work our decreases. And remember, the decreases are single crochet 3 together all across the row so that we have a total of 8 single crochets by the end of our decrease. Now that we've completed the decreases, it's time to work the single crochet panel. In order to do that, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And now we are going to work 8 single crochets. It's just that instead of doing front loop only, we're going to go under both loops to work our 8 single crochets. Remember, in the other side of the scarf that we did, we needed to use front loop only because we wanted to be able to sew our panels and create a little keyhole. In this one, we don't need to do that. So once we complete the 8 single crochets, then we're going to chain 1 and turn, just making sure I've got 8 single crochets. And this here is the 8th Now we're going to chain one and turn, and we're going to do an increase in the first stitch. This is the section where we go from 8 single crochets to 10 single crochets. So we're going to do an increase in the first stitch, and that is again in single crochets, so it's 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And then we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch until we are 1 stitch from the end of the row. And this is the last stitch of the row, so here is where we will do our increase. Then we will have a total of 10 single crochets. Now again for row 3, we are simply going to chain 1 and turn and work a single crochet in each stitch. We chain 1 and turn, and now we're going to begin row 4. So we start with an increase in our first stitch, and then we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch until we have 1 stitch remaining, or 1 stitch before the end of the row. And there in that last stitch we will complete our last increase for row 4. Rows 5 to 12, we're simply going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch. Now these 12 rows should take us to 2.5 inches or close to 2.5 inches. And I will meet you back here when I've completed those 12 rows. To complete this second panel, we are going to repeat the timestamps above, 2706 to 3622. Again, we're going to repeat the instructions of 2706 to 3622. As you can see, we have 2 very identical sections, and I could not be happier. So now what we're gonna do is, when you finish your cast off row, as I like to call it, for the thermal stitch, do not cut your yarn. We're gonna leave the yarn attached. By the way, there are 14 grams of yarn left after completing both sides of our scarf. So now we get to determine what our right side is going to be. So because we started with the thermal stitch, choosing right side, wrong side is not really relevant in this case. What is going to determine it for me is that I want both of my V's to be identical. So I'm going to choose this to be my right side because you can see I had previously marked it because I like the patterning more, and the patterning on both is very, very similar. That was not planned, by the way. And look, it just connects so beautifully. So I am going with this. What I'm going to be doing now is that I'm just going to be laying my pieces like so. And I am going to whip stitch along this edge. Now there are many different ways that you can stitch these 2 panels together. Choose the one that you like the best, the one that you think offers not only structure but also a clean seam. I went with this kind of variation on the mattress stitch where we insert our yarn needle from the front panel and then we pass it through, and then we insert our needle from the back in the back panel and we pass it through. Once we finish seaming, then all we have left to do is cut our yarn and weave in our ends. I really like how the panels came out, how they're stitched together, but like I said, feel free to choose a method that better aligns with you and your preferences, of course. So this is what we have. We would have now a completed keyhole scarf once we finish weaving in all of our ends. And here is our beautiful extra warm keyhole scarf. I am absolutely thrilled with how this project came out. I absolutely love the idea of a keyhole scarf or an ascot scarf, or you know, it's gonna stay where you put it. Changes that we can make, I think we could probably crochet less rows and then have it be tighter around the neck. We could also make it smaller, make it thinner, or you could simply choose a thinner. However you decide to modify this ascot scarf or keyhole scarf, I am absolutely happy that you decided to join me on this journey, and I can't wait to see your projects. Have a happy crafting. Goodbye.